Alright, so in this video, I want to go over what I think you actually need to start leathercraft, or just making stuff out of leather, you know what I'm saying? I've watched plenty of videos like this, you know, beginner-oriented videos where they're just talking about the necessary things you need to start leathercraft, and they really seem to overcomplicate it. Like, there's a lot of things that they mention that you don't really need. And now, I am by no means a professional in leathercraft. I've only been doing this a few months now, but when I first started, I didn't want to spend much money on tools at all, you know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming most of you guys are the same way. So yeah, here is, in my opinion, what you actually need to start leathercraft, and the tools that I actually used to make many things out of leather, like this lovely little wallet right here. You know what I'm saying? I've made this little field notes notebook right here, a notebook and pen holder. I've made a case with my earbuds out of all these tools I'm about to mention. So yeah, you can get some stuff done with these tools, and it's very basic. So let's get started. All right, so we're starting real basic here. All right, first thing you're gonna need is a ruler. Okay, it can be any kind of ruler. A lot of people say in the leathercraft space you need like a fancy dance corkback ruler. You don't need that. Just get a ruler. It can be a cheap one, a cheap plastic one. This is a pretty nice metal one that I had in my garage. It can be anything. Just a ruler, okay? Something to measure with and cut straight lines. That's it. Second thing you're gonna want is gonna be what I believe is called a square. It's what I've always called it. This is just used to cut perfect 90-degree angles, because you can see here, perfect 90-degree. Okay, if you want to cut a perfect square, you're gonna need a square. So yeah, real basic. You can find these at your Home Depot or hardware store for real cheap. This is a fancy Stanley one from way back in the day. It was my dad's, but anyone works. All right, next thing you're gonna want is a sharp knife. I personally am a knife collector. I have lots of nice pocket knives. I use a Spyderco Para 3. This is just my choice of knife. You can use whatever you want. A lot of people say you need to use an X-Acto knife. You don't need to. Yeah, they work pretty good, yeah. But you can use any sharp blade. So it could be an X-Acto knife. It could be a sharp pocket knife. It could be a utility blade with a fresh razor in it. It could be whatever you want. Just something sharp that you can cut some leather with. That's about it. Next thing you're gonna need is gonna be a hammer, okay? You just need, it can be any hammer. This is a pretty cool, like, fancy hammer right here. It's a nice solid brass hammer. Pretty cool, but it can be any hammer. Just need it to whack your chisels in. That's about it. I do recommend getting a heavier hammer though, if you can. Just get a heavier one. It makes it easier. So yeah. All right, so most of these tools that I've mentioned so far are like just basic tools. You might even have them in your garage already. They're not really leather specific tools. The next few I'm going to mention are leather specific, so you're probably going to have to buy them. Luckily, they're all cheap. I'll have them all linked in the description. They're all very cheap. So yeah. All right, so the first leathercraft specific tool you're going to want is some chisels right here, or like thread hole punches, or I don't even really know the specific name of these things. I'll have them linked. These ones linked in the description. I believe these were only like $7, $8, something like that for this set right here. Real cheap, and they actually work really good in my opinion. Granted, I've never used high-end versions of these, but these work really good. This is what you actually need your hammer for, so you can whack these things in. So, but yeah, these chisels right here are what you're gonna need to make these holes that go along the edges of your leather to then sew, so you can sew your leather. So yeah. Now I do want to mention though that if you're really cheap and you don't want to buy those, this is actually the first thing that I ever made out of leather, and you can see all of the spots where I had to thread. I actually used a screw gun and an extremely tiny drill bit to drill these holes in the leather. So I guess you don't need those, but they're cheap and they make it a lot easier. But for your first project, you can do that too if you have a screw gun and a really tiny drill. But yeah. All right, so these next two items I'm actually going to include together since they kind of go hand in hand, and that's going to be needles and threading. So yeah, these are real cheap. You can get them on Amazon. This is like 1mm thick wax threading. It works beautifully. And this roll right here actually came in a set on Amazon of like 8 different colored rolls, and it was only like $7. So real cheap. And also this set of needles, which I'll also have linked in the description, came with a bunch of different size needles, and they all work really good. I usually tend to use the tiny little needle that it came with, but it has a bunch of needles. I believe there's 15 different kinds of needles in there, and they also come in a really nice little wooden case, and this is also like $8, so real cheap here. Nothing fancy, you know what I'm saying? Oh, and also when you finish threading something, you do need to burn the ends of the threading, so you're gonna probably want a lighter. This is an old vintage Zippo, but you can use whatever kind of lighter you want. So yeah, get a lighter too. All right, so this last thing, I wasn't sure if I wanted to include it on my list just because you don't really need it. You don't really need it. You can make a lot of cool stuff out of leather without this, but this does make your life much easier, and it is pretty cheap as well. So yeah, that is gonna be some leather cement right here. This is some cheaper stuff that I got off Amazon. It works really, really well. And what you're gonna want this for is if you're ever, say, sewing two flat edges of leather together, like this right here. Let me zoom in. Yeah, like this right here or this right here. Before you actually go and you punch the holes there to then thread them, it's way easier to first glue them with this leather cement and then punch your holes, because the leather can't move around, and it just makes it a lot easier. And yeah, so I would recommend getting this, but this isn't a must. Like, you don't need this, need it, you know what I mean? So all right, so that is, in my opinion, what you actually need to start making stuff out of leather, or to start leathercraft. Okay, so yeah, very basic. It's just it's the must, what you actually need, nothing that you don't. And yeah, you might notice that there wasn't anything in here to finish and burnish your edges, and that's just because you don't really need to do that. That shouldn't be your main concern when you start making stuff out of leather. You just want to make stuff, get the feel for it, you know what I'm saying? And this is what you need to do that. So yeah, maybe down the road you want to look into an edge burnisher, an edge beveler, some tokenol or beeswax to finish your edges, and all that stuff. You can look in that down the road. This is what you actually need to start making stuff out of leather. And so yeah, I hope this video was helpful for you beginners out there, and I appreciate you watching all the way through the video if you're seeing this. And yeah, y'all take it easy. Peace.